Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Scorpio, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of September 2024. I hope you are well. I'm using the Night Sun Tarot for you today. Forgot what it was called for a second there. And in order to not fall foul of YouTube's nudity policy, if I get a card come out for you that is suggestive, I'm going to cover it up with another card. I heard some readers were drawing bikinis on their characters and whatnot to try and get around that, but I can't bring myself to do it, so this is what we'll do instead. Anyway, hopefully that won't be an issue and it'll all be fine. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. Link for that is in the description box. It's link number 1. Link number 2 is to my private community, which is the Order of the Phoenix over on the Circle platform. You can get access to all of the extended content for all of the signs for no additional cost beyond the membership fee, and hang out with an extraordinary group of people. So if that is something that feels like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that. Right, let's flip the camera around and have a look and see what's going on with you, Scorpio. So, can I have 3 cards for Scorpio, please? Whoa, there we go. We've got the King of Wands in your recent past. He is reversed. Current energy for Scorpio, please. Oh, goodness. Right. We have the 10 of Cups, the King of Pentacles, and the 4 of Swords. And what's coming towards Scorpio for September, please? Fuck. Okay. We have the Knight of Pentacles in reverse, which is very interesting. And the 8 of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Now, the 8 of Swords, as you're no doubt aware, speaks to exactly as it appears in this picture, actually. Let's have a look there. It's kind of mental restriction. It's feeling trapped, it's feeling stuck, and it's but invariably the way in which we are stuck, the way in which we are trapped, is a figment of a particular kind of mindset. Now, I didn't know until I picked that card up, but it makes perfect sense, because there you are underneath. That's the Death card, the card of Scorpio in the Major Arcana. I didn't know that it was sat there, but it makes perfect sense, because what we've got here is something that is pushing out and beyond the limits of what you have thought you were, what you thought you thought, what you thought you felt, what you thought. All of this is up for review, because something about the way that you are thinking about things right now is part of what is keeping you restricted. I want to get some clarifiers out before we go any further. But I think that the reversals are quite interesting in and of themselves. Let's get some clarifiers out and we'll see what's going on. So, tell me about King of Wands, please. We have King of Pentacles in reverse and the 10 of Pentacles in reverse. This 10 and this King and these Swords. Right, we have 7 of Wands, the Magician, and also the 7 of Swords. Interesting, because 7 is a number that I actually associate quite strongly with Scorpio anyway, but let's have a look. Tell me about this Knight of Pentacles, please. What is this Knight of Pentacles here? Okay, so we've got the 6 of Swords showing up sideways, 6 of Cups in the upright, and the Hanged Man. And in some ways we can see how this is a bit of a continuation from what was happening in August for you. I don't remember the details exactly, but I do remember calling it like Tentacles of the Past or something like that, right? This analysis of how much past stuff was informing what you thought you could achieve in the present, and how that needed some sort of resolution, something along those lines, right? We've got the Queen of Cups here, speaking specifically to what you allow yourself to take into yourself. And there's a card down here, you can't quite see it because I'm in the way, right, that fell out while I was getting the clarifiers out, and I feel like this card is important and I want to keep it and turn it over. What do we have? 4 of Cups. Okay, so not strictly a Scorpio card, it is in fact a Cancer card, but interesting that we should have these 2 Cancer cards coming up for you here, because If anything, I would say what I can see here feels a little bit not confused, but a little bit messy, and a little bit like things need stripping back down to their basics, right? And to that end, we can really see how this is a continuation from last month, right? Because the basics form your foundations, and what this is saying is that the foundations that you had were good for, as you know, to the point that you got to, but there's something quite radical about the stripping down that is happening here. Now, if you are particularly spiritually inclined anyway, and like you're watching a tarot reading, so obviously there's some degree of that there, you'll know this process of evolution. Scorpio knows it better than most, right? Almost invariably revolves around the need to take things back to basics again. I'm not going to teach you to suck eggs, because you know how to do this stuff, Scorpio. But this feels like it's really fine work. Now, as it relates to the broader thrust of what is going on with you at the moment, I do feel like there are plans that need untangling, unravelling, and resituating onto better foundations than you currently have. Obviously, there is an emotional component to this, and what that is will be different for each of you, but like what needs to be untangled and unpicked, as far as your current situation is, and situations that you are trying to aim towards. It's like the foundations don't run deep enough for the next step. You know, the kind of foundations that you would build for your shed are very different to the kind of foundations that you would build for some sort of skyscraper, right, sitting in the middle of a city. That's obvious, that makes sense. And so, to a degree, I guess it's the conscious awareness of the emotional investment and how far that potentially is holding you back from where the universe actually wants you to go, versus what you think is the proper outcome in any given situation. So I'm going to put that there, because I feel like the entire reading actually revolves around this card here. I know we've got shadow cards, and these are giving us an underlying theme for what's going on, and they're very important. But on the layer of, you know, the seam below that, we've got this Four of Cups, which is something that is transiting you at the moment. Now, I don't know what the astrology is. Like I said, I have not kept up with it over the summer at all, because I've been super busy. And so I can't tell you if there's any astrology that specifically relates to this for Scorpio, full stop. But whenever a card comes out sideways, to my mind, it has either not yet committed to, you know, being in the upright or being in the reverse, which is to say then that there are things that still need to happen before that occurs. It's kind of like held in abeyance, or you know, suspended in some sort of way. Or we are catching the energy on the turn. It's either turning from the upright into the reverse, or vice versa. Now, in this case, what I would really love to see is this turning around and presenting reversed, because for me, the Four of Cups, well, we've talked about this a lot, right? It can speak to abandonment issues, and that is an ever-present issue with Scorpio. Full stop. We know that, right? It's part of the experience. It can talk about feeling left out. It can feel like not being supported in the way that you feel like you should be. But since this reading seems to be focusing around the nuance and around the really fine lines of things, but we might step sideways from this and say, is the support that you are accepting, or the support that you are expecting, is it logical? Is it rational? Is it reasonable? Or is it somehow kind of like some padding around trauma that's warping your views of what this current moment needs? Because, you know, quite frankly, that way round just speaks to me of gratitude. It's just straight up gratitude. I am just grateful for every experience that I have, right now, and I trust that it feeds into the next level of experience that I'm going to have, right? There's a certain fluidity, I think, with the Four of Cups in reverse that we do not see. Well, you know, we could say in the reverse, in the upright, that it's a stagnancy of emotion, right? It's something very fixed that's keeping you where you are because you're refusing the assistance as it's being offered, right? Quite literally. So with all that said, we'll put that there. We've got the question of what it is that you're taking into yourself. The question of the amount of emotional investment that you have in the status quo right now, and we'll get to that in a second. And then we have the question of how much this is restricting your idea of what is possible moving forwards, because the whole reading does read like the answer is right there, Scorpio. It's right there. But for one reason or another, subconsciously, spiritually, whatever, you've kind of got your hand over your eyes at the moment. It could well be that you've seen the answer and you've seen that it's there, but it's asking from you a cost to be borne, right? So that there's an exchange that needs to be made that you don't feel comfortable at this point in making, and that's okay, because I think it's coming. But it's the depth of the foundations that you're being asked to dig into that is going to be the thing, right? When you hit it, it'll be like, oh, now I'm ready to do the thing. So we start off with three reversals over here. We've got the King of Wands, which is Leo energy. We've got the Ten of Pentacles, which is Virgo, and then the King of Pentacles in reverse as well, which is Taurus energy. So we've got a lot of fixed energy over here, none of it yours, because you are also a fixed sign. But the King of Pentacles is your opposite sign on the zodiac, so that Scorpio-Taurus dynamic is obviously at play somewhere, because it's here and it's here. And you will note you're hiding under here, you're hiding under the Eight of Swords. Scorpios always show up in their own reading, but you know, round the edges. Yeah, I was actually going to say there are no other Scorpio cards on the table, but that isn't correct because the Six of Cups is there. Anyway, so let's just put that to one side for a second. We've got a lot of fixed energy between these two kings, but they're both showing up reversed. And then we have the Ten of Pentacles. Now, the Ten of Pentacles for me is a card, sorry, that was my ankle, which in the reverse indicates a level of instability. All right, in the upright, it talks about heritage, it talks about legacy, it talks about, for me, it's like that snapshot in time where you take a picture and you've got like granddad in the picture, but you've also got the new like 2-month-old baby that's appeared, and then you've got the dog that's been around for fucking ages. You know, everybody grew up with the dog. He's an aged canine as well in the family home, or in like the grandparents' family home, right? So you've got this heritage and legacy occurring in the same space and time, and it's very stable, it's very secure, it feels like it will go on forever, right? When it's reversed, what we've got is something kind of splintering apart. It's like the legacy and the heritage aspect of these are now starting to disintegrate, and it's like, well, where do we go from here? Because it all seems so very clear cut up until this point. It all seemed very stable up until this point. The Ten of Pentacles variously can also refer to business. It can refer to one's home. You know, it's an expression of those things that give us that heritage and legacy state where we can take a picture and we're like, there's everybody, you know, in the fucking, I don't know, in the backyard that everybody has grown up with, playing in, you know, with the dog, all that sort of stuff. So what we've got is some instability. What we've got is a kind of breakdown of something that is happening here. And that doesn't feel comfortable, right? Necessarily. It does not feel comfortable. And we also have reversed kings. Now, sometimes you can look at the reversed kings and say they are people showing up in their shadow state, right? Because there's no card in the tarot that is all good or all bad. But certainly when characters like any of the hierarchies, you know, page, king, queen, night, whatever, whenever they show up, it can be people just not showing up in a good way. The thing is, because we have multiple kings showing up on the table here, and we do have the magician sat right in the middle of that, and that feels very powerful to me indeed. It's that unpicking energy that I'm going with. Rather than these being people, it's an energy of. So it's like what I thought I was working for to create, right? The stability, my business, my home, providing for my family, providing in any sort of way. Right, that suddenly doesn't have the same kind of future that it seemed to have when I started along this process. King of Wands in reverse here is indecisive energy. It's like the King of Wands acts. It's what he does, right? It's conditioned response. It's like, I've used this analogy before, but I think it works really, really well. Particularly if you've got a martial arts background, right? There's a saying, I think it was quote from Bruce Lee: I do not fear the man who knows 10,000 kicks. I fear the man who knows one kick that he has practiced 10,000 times. And that's bang on. That's King of Wands energy, right? You don't think about it. Your body's already reacting. It's seen the space and it's already reacting before you've consciously processed what's going on. He also is in the reverse. Now that feels indecisive. It feels slow. It feels sluggish. It feels like no matter what you do, there isn't really any movement forward that's occurring. Now, given that we've about half of the planets are all in retrograde at the moment. We've got Pluto in retrograde, Saturn, Neptune, Mercury. I think Mars is getting ready to go into retrograde as well. Don't like that as a fire sign. That smarts, generally speaking. We've got all of the energy and stamina that was going into, at the very least, the maintaining of a status quo, starting to fall away. It's like, what's the point? This is not going to work. This isn't it. Like, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it has legs. There's no longevity about this at all. Everything's starting to unravel just a little bit. Now, I'm going to pull out the Triple Goddess just here, because I want her to... the Triple Goddess Tarot. Collective her, I guess. Is there anything else to say? Well, touche. The Star is in reverse, and fucking King of Pentacles is showing up again at the bottom of the deck. This is like, what the King of Pentacles does really well is has a vision, and then kind of retro engineers the steps in his head that are necessary to create that vision, whatever it was that he saw there in the future, and go, okay, well, I need to do these things. And then he puts his head down and he works. He takes responsibility and duty really seriously. Now, the vision seems to have crashed down in some way. Something that you were working towards, something that had been giving you the motivation to keep going and trudging in that direction. It feels like everything's just fucking imploded on that. And I'm not quite sure what that is for each of you, because it will be slightly different. But, it could be anything from a very concrete plan. I'm going to do this and I'm going to move house and I'm going to do all of this. It could be that kind of breaking down. Or it could be something a little bit more abstract and perhaps more deeply personally felt within, which is to say the breakdown of family relations, the breakdown of a relationship, the loss of a home, the loss of the stability and security, material or emotional, relational or spiritual even. And what this is, and see, the whole thrust of this reading is about resituating yourself in the forward moving energy rather than the rather stagnant energy that you seem to be sitting in at the moment, right? We've got the Ten of Cups here, King of Pentacles again, and the Four of Swords. Now, we just leave these clarifiers to the side for a second, right? This Ten of Cups here is about, it's one of the happy family cards, right? The other one actually being the Ten of Pentacles there. It talks about emotional cohesion. between you and other people, right? It's Mars in Pisces, and I think if you look at the Mars aspect of this, it's like the drive forwards that comes from having something that is worth so much that you will just put your nose to the grindstone and work for it, right? It seems to be breaking down over here in some way or another, but it's asking to be picked back up here. Now think about the sign of Pisces, right? We're talking about the realm of the imagination, we're talking about subconscious, we're talking about dreamscapes, we're talking about visions and fantasies and all those kind of things, right? So what we've got here is like it's almost like a lower version of the star, and not lower as in less significant, but lower as in this is in your hands to be able to do something about it. Whereas this is kind of like some sort of big vision that seems to be almost thrust upon you by the universe, and you're like, my heart has connected to that idea over there, and then suddenly, like Moses parting the Red Sea, like everything just fucking works, right? You feel like the whole thing's been overseen by some sort of divine entity because it just follows one thing after another. This is like, no, this is now putting it in your wheelhouse. What do you need? What do the people around you need? What does your community need? And how can you then resituate yourself in the flow of energy that is moving forwards and not that which is kind of stagnating, falling apart, disintegrating over here? There's a huge freshening up of this, and it's not because what you had was crap. It's because everything has an expiration date, and you, Scorpio, more than anybody else, understand this innately. So in order to move to the next stage, we've got to let some destruction happen, but we also have to step out of that and into something fluid. Back to that word fluid again, moving forward and create a new vision based around the resources that we have, what we know, what we understand. And you know, your resources are not just your money, it's your energy, it's your love, it's your it's whatever you're willing to invest. Now it feels to me actually like you're willing to invest a lot, you just don't really know where to invest it. And we've got the Four of Swords here, Jupiter in Libra, and it's like this Four of Swords feels a little bit more like the detachment of objectivity. It's kind of like, I need to take a step back and work out what is really important for me, for my family, for my friends, for my community, whatever, and start planning around that instead of trying to clutch at this and keep this upright. We've got the Seven of Wands and the Seven of Swords here. Now both of these sevens, like I said, 7 is a number I associate with Scorpio to a degree, not entirely. I also associate it with Aquarius, but nowhere near as much as Scorpio. So this is something like inherently you like, I think. And we've got actions, we've got the potential of defensive behaviour, sometimes protective behaviour going on over here. And then we've got the Seven of Swords. Now that is known as the Thief card, and sometimes that is quite a negative card to see because it speaks of deceit by way of other people, or sometimes, and more often the way that I read the cards, we're seeing a level of self-deceit going on. But it's fucking nibbling me here. This Seven of Swords feels much more strategic. It feels like there are pick your battles. That's what I want to say. From these two cards here, this is pick your battles, because you could exhaust yourself, Seven of Wands over here, fighting off all of these invisible assailants, when you could be working smarter, not harder. Which suggests to me it's the resistance in what is breaking down. It's the resistance to what is breaking down that is the thing that's tiring you out at the moment. And if you took a step back and you were logical about this, you would see that if you pick your battles wisely, and indeed, actually, isn't that wild? So I'm looking here at the colours. We've got blues down here. We've got yellows in a line down here. Then we've got this green in the middle. Very interesting, right? It says to me, even from a colour point of view, that the route to the ability to be able to manifest what it is that you are trying to bring about for yourself is running through this yellow line. It's running through the swords. It's running through the objectivity and the ability to detach yourself from the level of emotional engagement that you've got in something else that, quite frankly, is done. You can fight, whatever, but actually this needs a much bigger step back. And so everything that you were doing in August feels to me like it was a necessary precondition for getting you to where you are here. It's like, how much are the tentacles of the past informing your present right now? Because there isn't a person alive who isn't utilizing what they have experienced to in some way predict what they are capable of achieving in the future, what they can hope to achieve in the future. But this is saying, take a step back from everything, right? Look around and see where it is that the emotional attachments are causing. It's the emotional attachments to this are causing this and blocking this. Because the Death card and the Magician are two really, really powerful cards. They're powerful cards of change. And if you're running up against a wall, which it seems to me you have been doing, Scorpio, the solution is not to keep running up against the wall. Take a step back, look around, and see what else there is. Now, normally it would be Taurus and Leo that are, renowned for just going up against the wall over and over again. Scorpio a little less so, because you tend to kind of observe and look around the edges and all that sort of stuff. But there's something about this situation actually is seeing you hitting the wall over and over again. And this is where we come back to basics again. We need to go back to basics. Feels like everything's been very messy, right? And often it is when other people are involved, right? It's just messiness all around. But if you can take it back to basics, you step back. Some things necessarily are going to fall away because they have to. You understand that? That's fine. There are new things that need to be created, but what you need to do is harness the vision of where you want to go. Because I think at this point, perhaps you've got bogged down in the needs of other people a little bit more than you should do. And the wise course of action here, because we're coming down to the Magician, right? We're coming down to that point of creativity, right? And literally being a lightning rod, conduit for stuff to come through. I think what's necessary here is critical thinking, circumspection, but kind of looking around and working out where it is that you want to go, right? You need a vision and you don't have one. You don't have one because you're holding on to the old one. But the point that I'm kind of getting at is I feel like people will come to you when you are doing what is right by you and what you think the future should hold, rather than you having to try and create it for people. Now, there's a high level of trust that's required here because, like I said, there are also things at the same time simultaneously falling away, and it's quite exposing because of the level of trust that is required from you to keep investing on a particular path versus the one that you thought was important. Tell me about this Magician, please. Street. Wow. Okay. Well, fuck me, Scorpio. I could not have come up with a better set of cards to absolutely confirm what I'm trying to say here, and not least because we've got the Nine of Cups here. Now, the way that I read tarot, the nines for me are always talking about how you personally manage a thing. So Nine of Swords is how you manage your mind and your mental processes and your communication and that kind of thing. The Nine of Wands, your behaviour. The Nine of Cups here. So I'm just pointing randomly at the Ten of Cups and not Nine of Cups here. How do you manage your emotions? How do you follow what is right for you versus what is right for everybody else? Which would be a matter for the 10, because there's a very collective energy to that 10 of Cups for me. And so here I am chatting away about how you actually, if you build it, they will come, right? It's that kind of energy here. And we get the Ace of Pentacles and the Ace of Wands. Don't be afraid to let go of something that has hitherto been stable and secure and a platform from which you have been able to do X, Y, and Z million other things, right? Because it's time for it to go, right? It's got its expiry date, it's been reached. We'll launch it from the fridge like a mouldy avocado, right? Here, though, this is about true creative, what's the word that I'm looking for here? There's something very liberating, authentic, huge, authentic, incredibly fucking personal. I felt that at the beginning, right? Really, really personal. So there's a change in circumstances here, but there's a huge change in you too. As you turn to face the uncertainty, guided only by your own vision. Not a vision that's been thrust upon you by the universe, but one actually that comes to you. It says, what makes me happy? I'm going to do that thing. Like, for some of you, you might even make a business out of that thing, because the Ace of Pentacles and the Ace of Wands go together beautifully for that. And how interesting that we should have corresponding aces for the kings that we have on the table here. It's almost like the way you've been trying to go, it's falling away. King of Wands and the King of Pentacles are not going to keep expending their energy on flogging a dead horse. They're just not going to do it. They're too wise for that shit. Here, we have a complete revolution in the way that you are doing all sorts of things, like what your vision is for the future. But I don't think you have to base it around the needs of other people. You have to base it around what is important to you, and other people will come along the way, right? Precondition for the Ten of Cups to be operating effectively is for all of the people who are involved in that to be showing up in their personal Nine of Cups state here. And so you have to lead by example, Scorpio. That's what this is saying to me here. And the realization of that feels to me like it's what makes all of these swords fall away, and hello, here you are, Scorpio, in your death state, if you will. I can't even think of what word I was trying to use there. Now, what's coming towards you becomes very interesting then, because we have the Knight of Pentacles in the reverse. This is a Virgo card. It's about discipline, it's about commitment, it's about truly staying the path. And it's also about slow movement. There is forward movement with the Knight of Pentacles, but it is tediously slow. But it is in that tedious slowness that a proper foundation is created, and whatever is being taken care of here will actually be seen through to its completion. How interesting then that it should be showing up both in the reverse and accompanied by the Six of Swords, the Six of Cups, and the Hanged Man. And I really do feel like August and everything that August contained for you is really, really important in what happens here in September, because we had double sixes over here, double sevens rather over here. We now have double sixes over here. So in some ways we're actually numerologically taking a step back, exactly as was suggested would be a good idea, right? We're not pushing forwards, we're coming back just a little bit. We're going into the past, which is what the Six of Cups is all about here. It's not just you know, what happened a week last Tuesday. I mean, generally it's a little bit further back than that. It is related to children and childhood, and in some instances it can be tacked on to past life experiences. Now, obviously, that's a level above where most people are at in being able to go into and navigate the wisdom of, you know, or the karma of whatever happened in your past life. But like, it can be done in stages. Anyway, it's not really important. The Six of Cups is what has been. And more importantly than that, for you, and this is very specific to you in this reading with these things here, is that the Six of Cups can talk about nostalgia. It's that sepia-toned view that we have of the past and how good things were in the past and whatnot. But when I came across, so I'm a massive word nerd, right? This is why it really pisses me off when I can't remember what word I was trying to use for something, right? But I remember looking into the etymology of nostalgia and the history of the use of the word. And it turned out that back in Victorian times, nostalgia didn't just mean this kind of wistful yearning for the past, or you know, the way that we saw things with these, you know, through sepia tones or rose tinted glasses or whatever. The word nostalgia actually meant something along the lines of a pathological obsession with the past, like such that it actually, you know, had a somatic effect on you. This need to go back to when things were really, really good. And I think that that's really interesting, because that's what's popped up here for me, for you, in the whole of September. Now, with that interpretation being there and being something that seems to be coming up, what it's suggesting to me is the realization of how much you are holding on to, right? How much, and I'll be clear, I think it's your subconscious that's holding on to it. Because this Six of Swords isn't in the upright, it's not in the reverse, right? Six of Swords, we're moving away from a thing. Great. Reversed, we're going back to a thing. We're in a state of stasis. This for me feels like it's the revelation of September for you. Because you, this card here that represents Scorpio, which it does, I forget what planetary correlation it is. It'll be something in Scorpio, right? But this is a Scorpio bit here. We've got stasis with the Six of Swords showing up that way around. We also have stasis with the Hanged Man. And we have the Knight of Pentacles in the reverse. There's a huge fucking revelation here for you in September, Scorpio. And this explains why it is that you need to go deeper on the foundation, right? We are not pulling up all the trauma from the past. Please don't misunderstand me when I'm saying, like, we need to look at this. It's that objective assessment of the extent to which past narratives, past understandings of situations, past emotional investments are all keeping you in this state of stasis. Because what you really want to do is you want to invest all of this energy that you've got, and you want to build something, and you want to create. And I mean, that's abundantly clear from what's going on here. But somehow the vision just has not been coming. I mean, it could come down to the fact that, Scorpio, when you really sit and think about it, you couldn't actually say what would make you happy, save for the familiarity of what you already have. And that's a very interesting space to suddenly become aware of acutely in your own life. Tell me about the Six of Cups. Chariot, Hermit, and the Moon. Like, as much as it sucks to say it, Scorpio, because I know it's a ball ache and nobody really wants to do it, like, all of the answers that you need are already inside of you. This is what I'm saying. It's not like you need a new seam of creativity. It's not like you need a new vision. It's not like you need an idea. There's a certain amount of acceptance, right? Acceptance of things falling away. Not normally something that Scorpios struggles with, right? Except that somewhere within you there seems to be a tally that's been being kept of all of the things that have fallen away from you. And then on top of that, like, it's something that it feels actually is probably completely consciously screened away from you. Right? It might bubble up every now and again and you're like, oh, yeah, well, that situation was shit, but I've moved on, it's fine. And it's like, actually, your subconscious has been holding on to things so very fucking tightly. Secretively, obsessively, right? Stowed away in the back of a cave in your psyche somewhere. If you want to move forwards, you have to let that out. You have to let it go. You have to submit to the experience of having experienced it, but then also submit to the experience of letting it go, because there's something really deep here that's coming out this month. And in the extended, we're going to dig into that, because I'm starting to feel like there's something that happens that is a triggering event for this. Like, this doesn't feel like it's just, you know, Scorpio sat in meditation and all of a sudden there's this big, you know, wet blop from the deep with all of this information that seems to come up for you. This has got a kind of, this, triggers that, triggers the other, you know, kind of feel to it. And then suddenly there's a stark realization and you're like, oh my word, I did not expect to see this. I did not expect to feel this. I did not expect to have any sense of this in myself right now. But now that I do, it makes all sorts of sense. And I can start focusing on the fact that maybe I don't know what would make me happy without the familiarity of the things that I already have. Now, for a lot of people, that's scary. And that's why they cling to the old things. But I feel like this is the beginning of a journey for you whereby you are going to discover those things. There's another card of Cancer there. The Chariot. And for me, the Chariot is about self-knowledge. It's getting on the path to individuation, because we're balancing out those parts of us, you know. Broadly speaking, the Chariot card often indicates shadow work to me, and like, fuck, you know, the Moon, the Chariot card, the Hermit, I mean, they're all talking about internal investigation of sorts, if you look at the Chariot card that way. But it's like the time has come for you to shed a shitload of weight, shed a shitload of things that you've been subconsciously holding on to. And like I said, it does feel like a little bit of a slap in the face, in that way that these huge epiphanies of self often do, where you're like, oh, it's like that meme from Peep Show, you know, Hans, are we the baddies here? And it's the dude in an SS uniform, you know. It's like, oh, not that I'm saying you're baddies, Scorpio, but what I am saying is there's an awful lot of energy going into subconsciously holding on to something that is, frankly, way past its expiration date. It's time to let it go, because there's no more forward movement. None, while your ankles are as weighed down with concrete as they are right now. Like, bend down, chip off the concrete, give yourself a shake, and get ready for October. Because as you move into your birthday month, I feel like there is so much that has changed between even just the time that I'm recording this and, you know, the advent of your season. This creativity really gets an outlook, an outlet. There we go. That's it. It really gets an outlet somewhere. But you've just got to crash through first whatever it is that is holding you back. This is really interesting. So I'm going to go over to the extended now, and dig into this a little bit more. Like I said, I do feel like there's some sort of catalyst that's kind of pushing this on, and whether that's something that happens to you personally or whether that is something that's happening on more of the mundane world level, who knows. But it's going to be crackly, I think, between now and the end of the year. So we'll dig into that a little bit. Yes, so if you'd like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Circle, or you can do that on Vimeo. Either, I would be delighted to see you in either place. If not, just know that you are so very close. And the more difficult things are seeming right now, and the more, the fewer opportunities for forward motion that seem to be presenting themselves, like, the more we have to come back to the essential notion that it's the Eight of Swords that is preventing the movement forwards, not external circumstances, you know? Alright, I shall leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.